Okay, so I think we'll get started. And again, we apologize for the delay and the technical difficulties, but we're really, really happy that you were all able to join us today, and we appreciate the invitation. My name is Mary Dunkel, and I'm just going to start with a very brief overview of NORD, and then my colleagues here will tell you a little more about their specific areas. I think the most important thing you need to know about NORD is that it exists to bring the entire rare disease community together. There are literally hundreds of organizations for people with specific rare diseases, but NORD is here to serve as an umbrella group to bring all of those organizations together and find our common ground and look at issues that are important to everyone with a rare disease and work together in areas like advocacy and education on behalf of all of us. And we work with many, many partners, both individuals and organizations. So just a few very quick rare disease facts. In the United States, according to the National Institutes of Health, there are approximately 7,000 diseases that are considered rare. These affect 30 million Americans, so almost 1 in 10 people. So even though each disease is rare, when you put them all together, it's really quite a few people who are affected. And rare is defined in the U.S. as a disease affecting fewer than 200,000 Americans. That's the same definition that's used by the National Institutes of Health, the Food and Drug Administration, and all of our government agencies. And only about 500 of these 7,000 diseases actually have FDA-approved treatments. So there's really a huge need for research and treatment development. As an example, all but a few types of adult cancer are rare, and all pediatric cancers are considered rare. One of the big challenges for the rare disease community is delay in diagnosis. It takes on average from 5 to 7 years for people with a rare disease to get an accurate diagnosis. And about 80% or more of these diseases have a genetic component. So NORD's history began really in the late 1970s and early 1980s when there were very, very few treatments being developed for people with rare diseases. There were at that time a few disease-specific patient organizations, and the leaders of a few of those organizations, including the Tourette Syndrome Foundation and the Huntington's Disease Society, got together and realized that we really needed some legislation that would provide incentives for pharmaceutical companies to develop treatments for these diseases. So the patient groups worked together to provide advocacy for what became the Orphan Drug Act, which was passed by Congress and signed by President Reagan in January of 1983. And NORD actually, those patient advocates who worked together to get that law passed are the ones who then realized that when they worked together, they really had a much louder voice than if they tried to speak alone. So in May of that same year, they formally established NORD as an organization to draw together the community. And what the law did is provide financial incentives such as 7 years of marketing exclusivity, tax breaks on the costs of research and developing treatments for rare diseases, and federal grants for orphan products. The diseases or the products that are being developed for rare diseases are often called orphans. It's been a very successful piece of legislation, and you can see just the general trend here. The first few years there were, just 1 or 2 products being developed after this law was passed, and then it's gotten to a point now where about 1/3 of the products approved by FDA in each of the past few years have been orphan products. So this is NORD, and we provide services really in 4 general areas: advocacy, education, patient services, and research. In advocacy, we have an office in Washington, D.C. Our colleagues there spend a great deal of time on Capitol Hill and at NIH and FDA, Social Security, other government offices, providing advocacy on behalf of all people with rare diseases. And they're always looking for issues that don't just apply to a few diseases or a few people, but what can they do to really represent the entire community. So these would be things like funding for research at NIH and for rare disease orphan product programs at FDA, advocacy on behalf of patient access to needed treatments, strengthening the drug development process, and then sometimes we do get involved in specific issues that affect large numbers of the community, such as newborn screening, the need for more pediatric research, and the need for people to be able to access medical foods, which are the necessary treatment for some metabolic diseases. NORD's educational programs are aimed primarily at promoting earlier diagnosis for patients and optimal care, and that refers to our outreach to medical professionals and medical students and others preparing for health-related careers. We also do quite a bit in the area of patient-family education, and Marcia will be telling you more about that in just a few minutes. But over the years, one of the things that NORD has considered very important is to make information available to patients in language they can understand. We also host an annual conference. It always takes place in October. It's called the Rare Diseases and Orphan Products Summit, and it's open to the entire community. Our patient services, and Catherine will be speaking a little more about specific services here, but we do regional disease-specific meetings for patients and family members. We have patient assistance programs of various types, including a program for undiagnosed patients that I think Catherine will tell you a little more about, and travel and lodging programs for clinical trial participants. Our research program has been active since the late 1980s. Our grants have led to at least 2 products that we know of that ultimately got approved by FDA. They've led to many very important papers published in medical journals and genes being identified and that sort of thing. In general, our program is aimed at promoting innovation. We also try to encourage a rare disease career path for young scientists who might not otherwise think of that or might not otherwise be able to get funding. We support research on very rare diseases, so in some cases the grants that are available through NORD are the only funding that's available for study of those diseases. We often partner with disease-specific patient organizations who may do fundraising but don't really have the capability of administering a grant, so NORD helps them do that. And we also have a very active natural history and patient registry project now that Catherine can tell you a little more about also. NORD is the national organization in the United States to represent the entire rare disease patient community. We also work with international partners. We have a strategic alliance with our counterpart organization in Europe, which is called EURORDIS. We also have a memorandum of understanding with the Japan Patients Association. We work with partners all around the world on Rare Disease Day. Each country, and I believe there were more than 90 countries that participated in Rare Disease Day last year, and each one has one organization within that country that serves as the sponsor, and that's NORD's role in the U.S. So Kristen will tell you a little more about that also. But we feel that with rare diseases, because there are, in many cases, just a few patients in each country, and it's incredibly important to be connecting the patients around the world and connecting the researchers and encouraging people to share information. And Kristen will also talk more about these opportunities for you to get involved, so I'll leave that up to her.
And if you just give us 1 second, we're going to go to our rarediseases.org website. Okay, hopefully everybody sees the website on your screen. And Mary, if you want to navigate
sure.
through.
Okay. So because we do serve many different audiences, our website can sometimes be a little overwhelming when you first come. We have almost 1 million visitors a month, and it's a pretty good cross-section of individual patients and family members, people who are leaders of patient organizations, people from the pharmaceutical or biotech industries, clinicians and researchers, people at university campuses or teaching hospitals, and people who are working primarily as advocates in the public policy space. So we try to organize our information so that people can find what they're looking for, but it can be a little bit daunting. So I just wanted to take 1 minute to talk in particular about the things that you can find if you come to our website as an individual patient or family member. And you would just click on that button at the top of the site. Marcia's going to tell you a little more about the, rare disease information that we provide. We also have a page of resources and frequently asked questions, and that includes some financial resources and various other types of resources. We have a page where you can click on your state and find specific insurance information or contacts related to that in your state. There's information that you can download or tell your physician about. We have a page where we have some news about clinical trials, and we also refer people to clinicaltrials.gov, which is the most complete database of all clinical trials. And then the one page that we especially wanted to draw to your attention today is a page specifically for undiagnosed patients on our website. NORD actually is contacted by many people who are sometimes going through a very frustrating and often costly odyssey to try to get an accurate diagnosis of a rare disease. And we know how difficult that can be for the patients and their families. So we did try to pull together on this page some of the resources that we're aware of. If you're not aware of it yet, you should check into the Undiagnosed Diseases Network, which started originally at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda and now is a network of centers. I believe there are 7 different centers around the country, and there's some wonderful information about this online. And if you know of someone who is undiagnosed, it's actually possible to submit an application online to be considered for this network. So that's a resource that we always try to make sure undiagnosed patients are aware of. And then we just have some other general information, resources. There's the clinicaltrials.gov website that I mentioned, and there's CC4C, which we're very happy and proud to have on this page also. So I think at that point I'll turn it over to Marcia, who can tell you more about the information that we provide on rare diseases.
Great.
Okay, so I just wanted to show you a couple of different ways from the home page that you can get to the rare disease database. One is to come down from this tab for information and resources and click on rare disease information, which I will do just to get us back there. But also on the home page, if you page down just a little bit, you'll come here, rare disease database. So either way, if you click on search the database, you'll come to the landing page for rare disease information. This box over here on the right is basically an introduction to our rare disease database, and it explains that we have currently between 1,200 and 1,300 reports on specific rare conditions in this compilation. This is a database that we are continuously updating and expanding. We do not clearly yet have reports on all of the 7,000 diseases that are considered rare, but we're working on it. So what the objective really of our rare disease database is to provide easy to understand information about specific conditions, and then refer anyone who is interested in that condition onto other disease-specific information that can provide more support. So I'm going to just pull up an example so I can show you what a typical report looks like. There are two ways to search. One is alphabetically, the other is in the search box. If you wanted to see, for example, all the reports that begin with A, you can click on the A, and it should give you the entire list of A's. So I'm going to pull up a report here called Alport syndrome, just to show you what a typical report looks like. The structure of the reports is maintained throughout. You'll see an acknowledgement at the top for the medical professional who reviewed the information. You'll see a list of synonyms, other names for the condition. One of the things that's very common with rare diseases is that there are multiple names for a condition, and we try to choose as the first name the title of the report, the name that is used most often, but allow people to search on synonyms as well. So if they're familiar with a different name, they can find the condition. We have a paragraph at the beginning just to give an overview. We call that general discussion, sometimes split up into summary and introduction, where introduction would talk a little bit about the history of the condition, who first reported it. If there are any issues around the nomenclature, that would go there. We have a signs and symptoms section where we talk about different body systems that are affected in the condition, what the range of presentation might be for the condition. Causes section goes into what is known about why this condition occurs. If there are specific genes that have been known to be associated, we discuss those in detail, as well as modes of inheritance. If there are other known causes, be it infectious, those would be discussed here as well. The affected populations is usually just a brief statement about incidence or prevalence data, if it is available, and if there are specific ethnic groups that might be at higher risk to develop the condition because of genetic factors, that might be mentioned here. Related disorders is meant to give just a brief description of some conditions that in some ways may be similar and sometimes could be confused from a diagnostic point of view with the condition. Diagnosis is a discussion of how the condition is diagnosed. That might include genetic testing, it might include biopsy or other laboratory tests, imaging procedures, might also include just a discussion of the clinical features, again, that are necessary to be present in order for a diagnosis to be made. Under standard therapies, we talk about any FDA-approved therapies, as well as standard of care in the medical community for treating the condition. Sometimes we include information about treating specific symptoms associated with the condition if there isn't any treatment for the entire condition. And then investigational therapies, sometimes we might mention patient registries if they're available. For the most part, this section is really just referring you on to clinicaltrials.gov and other resources so that it's an easy way to get the most up-to-date listings of clinical trials and studies that are currently occurring. We will list then first our NORD member organizations that support the condition, and then other organizations that provide information and support as well. We have a list of references, and then we have our copyright years. So as I said, you can search not only alpha, but you can search in this box over here. I think advantages of using this box are that you can search on synonyms. So for example, if you typed in hereditary nephritis into this box, because that's the way you knew the name of this condition, it would pull up the Alport syndrome report. One advantage of searching on the alpha list is if you are uncertain of the spelling, searching in the box can cause you difficulties. But if you just wanted to look through, for example, if you knew that it started with a B and you had, you knew what the first three letters were or whatever, you could look through all the list of Bs and probably find the condition that you're looking for. If you were searching and you did not find a report, we do want to encourage accessing information from the Genetic and Rare Diseases Information Center, GARD, at the NIH, because they have the most current up-to-date list of all of the 7,000 rare conditions. So one other database I just want to show you while we're here, and again, the best way to access this is going through For Patients and Families, and then over to Connecting with Others, find a patient organization. And similarly, this is set up to search either alpha or in the search box. And this is a listing of all of the organizations in our organizational database that we would then be referring patients to, well, referring anyone to who had questions about specific conditions, or in many cases, as your organization is, it's really more of an umbrella type of organization to support people with rare disorders and undiagnosed disorders. And I know that you are listed in our ODB, so I'm just going to...
It's under Cheyenne.
There we are. So when you click on CC for C here in ODB, you see your location, your email address, website, and Twitter and Facebook contact. So at this point, I think I'm going to turn it over to Kristen. I'm sorry. I'm going to turn it over to Catherine.
I think in the interest of time, I think they were really interested in hearing what you had to say, Kristen.
Okay, sure.
Patient assistance, I think, is pretty self-explanatory under the For Patients and Families tab. They can certainly look at that and ask me any questions, but I want to make sure we open up the line again. So why don't we let you do your thing, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Okay, so I kind of work in the area of how to engage with NORD and the patient community on advocacy efforts, community events and activities. So there's a couple of ways to get involved through our NORD website, and then I'll show you some external websites that we also have with a little bit more. So this is for policy. NORD, as Mary discussed, was very involved in federal legislation And in the recent years, we've actually developed a strong relationship in state policy legislation. So we have active networks in the states working on state-specific legislative initiatives. So there's ways to get involved and keep in tune with what is going on in advocacy. We've recently launched our Rare Action Network, and that is a place where folks can go to learn additional ways to get involved with NORD. It does have its own standalone website that just launched this past December, and I won't go through the entire website because again, it's another in-depth website. However, this one's very user-friendly, and you have the opportunity to kind of really navigate yourself and see what fits you and how you want to get involved. One thing I do want to highlight is there's a state action center on the rareaction.org. And this state action center is specific, so you can actually go and click on your state to see what is happening around, your state. And if there isn't anything happening, there's other ways on those state pages to get involved. If there's a volunteer state ambassador for that state, it will be listed on the website as well that you can contact directly to get involved. Under here is where events are happening, and it even identifies the issues in those states based on a recently published NORD report card for each state on specific initiatives, and these are just a sample of some of them and how the state fared in those categories. Another area is the Get Involved area, and this again is the various ways you can participate with NORD. We have a state ambassador program, so we're actively seeking ambassadors in states to apply for that volunteer role. There's opportunities to see where you can volunteer with our member organizations and some of the opportunities that they have, whether they're having a run locally in Texas and they need volunteers for the day of. There's actually a section that will show you where you can volunteer your time and you can host events, awareness activities. Really, it's a very in-depth area. You can sort events that are happening by state over here. We even have a shop for Rare Disease Day gear as well as NORD swag. So the other opportunity, and a lot of the RareDiseaseDay.us is our U.S.-based Rare Disease Day website, and as you'll see in my browser, right now it's saying .org. That's our global website for Rare Disease Day. Oh, sorry. Now that would be. So ours is actually RareDiseaseDay.us.
You have an extra.
Oh, sorry about that. And Rare Disease Day takes place on the last day of February each year. In recent years, as I mentioned, we've been working hard in the states to host events, whether they be just awareness campaigns in local communities, to events at the state capitol buildings, educating elected officials on rare diseases and the importance of considering the rare community when they make decisions that would affect you directly. So this is where patients can raise their voice and come together and advocate for change on legislation and any initiatives that are important to not only the rare community and what NORD's initiatives are, but in addition to what's important in your state. Some states vary in the different areas that there are concerns it could be, because a lot of the healthcare decisions are made at the state level. And this is ways you can get involved with Rare Disease Day and continue the momentum throughout the year through the Rare Action Network is how they intertwine together. You can see what's going on with legislative advocacy events, as I mentioned. There's academic events that are taking place across the country on or around February 28th this year. Events tend to begin in early February and typically run through mid-March for Rare Disease Day activities, just depending on schedules and legislative calendars and things like that. You can search by location. You can, if you're hosting an event, this is where you could actually tell us what you're doing, and it will be added to community events page, so people can actually see the various activities that are taking place. Sorry, I think it's in a different area. But again, there's a lot on this to navigate through. You can actually sign up to be a partner, and you'll get a badge to download that says you're a Rare Disease Day partner, and you can post that on your website. So there's many ways to get involved. And just going back to the NORD website really quick, there is opportunity to share your patient story, and it's actually under patients and families. And if you go to the patient stories under Connect with Others, we are, it's our ultimate goal to have a rare disease patient story for every rare disease out there. So, we encourage people to take the time and submit their patient story and a photo, and we use them across the various platforms here at NORD. So that's it in a nutshell. I am available for any questions, and we're going to unmute the line so you can ask a question on the line, or you can submit it through the chat box and we're just going to go back. And these are the websites that we covered today, in addition to rarediseases.org, which is the NORD site. So we're going to unmute the lines now and open it up for questions.
The conference has been unmuted.
Does anybody have any questions?
That was fabulous. This is Kim Foxhoven, and I had a question about, I couldn't remember if it was you all or the undiagnosed or UDN talking about camps for kids with rare and undiagnosed diseases.
Yeah, NORD partnered with the Paul Newman's Hole in the Wall organization to provide a camp for, it's actually a family camp, and I believe it was a long weekend maybe, and we did it for the first time this past summer, and I think it was very successful, and I believe they are planning to do that again and maybe even expand it a bit. So I don't have any specifics about it yet, but we'll certainly be posting information as that becomes available.
And also on each of these websites, there's actually a form you can fill out to get our newsletters for each of the different various programs, campaigns, and sites. And the NORD e-news goes out monthly, and it always has updates and announcements such to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions?
Can you hear me? This is Adrienne Trigg.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much for all of your resources available to us. I had a question regarding your advocacy. You said you have things in each state. Do you have lobbyists in each state that work with legislators?
They're not lobbyists. They are just patient advocates. So they're, and we actually collaborate with all stakeholders of the rare community. So our advocacy events include industry representatives. It includes patients, caregivers. It includes elected officials that have supported initiatives in the past, that we invite to kind of help advocate with us, and medical professionals. So we kind of bring this full round table to the state houses to educate them. And if there is specific legislation, we do, lobby for that, but we do not have professional lobbyists in each state. All of our Rare Action Network initiatives are volunteer run, and the only prerequisite for a volunteer in the leadership role would be that they need to reside in that state.
And that was available on the website to see where that was?
Yep, that is the Rare Action Network. So all of those activities are listed on the rareaction.org site.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay.
Well, if there's no other questions, we want to thank you so much for your time and your interest today. And Kim, we will be sending you this recorded version as well as our slide deck after we finalize this call.
Okay, thank you. I really want to thank all of y'all for doing this. This was really interesting, and it is great, information for all of us. So thank you again for taking the time to do this.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Anytime. You have a great day. Thank you.